The summit tomorrow. NATO's in also visit. They most want Russia to know that it cannot cross into NATO territory, and this is what will be the point of announcing more troops for NATO's eastern allies, and in fact even more reinforcement for Ukraine, albeit not troops. Stoltenberg said he expects more equipment to be sent to Ukraine. This is all an effort to see that the war does not spill into NATO territory, and that will be the core task here at NATO. And then President Biden will move to the other side of town and talk more to European allies about how to increase the price that Moscow is paying for continuing this war on Ukraine. Terry Schultz for us at NATO headquarters there in Brussels. Thank you very much. Ukraine is calling on Russia to allow civilians to escape the southern port of Mariupol. The local council says Russian forces who have surrounded the city have reduced it to ashes with constant bombing. President Volodymyr Zelensky says 100,000 civilians are trapped without food, water, or medication. Zelensky says Russian forces seized a humanitarian convoy attempting to bring relief to Mariupol's besieged residents.
Bombs keep falling on Mariupol. The besieged city is under relentless shelling by Russian forces. Satellite pictures show the extent of the devastation. Apartment buildings burnt out. A metal factory shelled. Hundreds of thousands of people are still stuck here under the fire.
At the moment, there are around 100,000 people living in Mariupol under inhumane conditions, under a complete siege, without food, water and medicine, under constant shelling and bombardment. For several weeks, we have been trying to organize stable humanitarian corridors for Mariupol's residents, and almost all our attempts
Знаешь, какая
have been,
ситуация?
unfortunately,
Получается так, что как бы люди-то не стареют. Странно, вот ты живешь, мы живем сейчас в стране, в такой, секой, я не знаю, живут в другой стране. И вечно, ну вот это имейте в виду, понимаете, что нельзя говорить этого просто, да.
Ukraine announced an agreement to evacuate residents from towns and cities through 9 humanitarian corridors on Wednesday. Russia continues to pummel cities across Ukraine, like here in the capital Kyiv, where drones attacked the scientific institute. Or here in Kharkiv, in the northeast of the country, where missiles fell. President Volodymyr Zelensky is still hopeful that talks with Russia can bring peace. He says Ukraine is prepared to discuss the status of Crimea and the separatist Donbas region after a ceasefire. But any agreement would have to be approved by the Ukrainian people.
The war in Ukraine has forced millions of people to flee, mostly to neighboring countries. But some Jewish refugees have a different goal: Israel, which grants them the right to immigrate. More than 4,000 Ukrainians have arrived in Israel since the start of the Russian invasion.
They are safe at last. Just a week ago, Dmitry Miskarov, his wife and sister arrived in Israel from Odessa, fleeing the war in Ukraine.
Our cities are being bombed. Many have been destroyed, and there are many casualties among the civilian population. That's what Russian aggression looks like.
For now, they are living in a hotel in the small city of Nov HaGalil, along with many other refugees. Everyone here is waiting for their entry documents to be processed. Dmitry is entitled to Israeli citizenship because he's Jewish. That's the law. He feels welcome already.
We're getting lots of support here. We're being fed and given clothes and everything that we need.
And that's exactly how it should be, according to the mayor. Once an immigrant himself from Moldova, he now encourages refugees to come to his city. One selling point he mentions, cheaper rent than in Tel Aviv. He also uses Facebook to invite refugees to Nov HaGalil, which has already taken in 200 people fleeing the war. While the Israeli government is still arguing about how much immigration the country can handle, the mayor sees their arrival as a positive.
I look at other immigration waves in the past, and I see what it did to Israel. It definitely did a lot. The migrants from back then all have high-ranking jobs. They benefited the country. I believe that will happen again.
The city is no stranger to immigration. Half the residents here speak Russian, and unlike in other parts of Israel, street signs are not only written in Hebrew, Arabic, English, but Russian too. And those who were once immigrants themselves are lending a helping hand to the new arrivals.
The new Israelis needed more than we have. We have too much, and we can give.
Mitchell says he now wants to find an apartment, job, and learn Hebrew. He says he has no plans to return to Ukraine, except to visit his parents who stayed behind in Odessa.
Let's get a reminder of our top story. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says NATO remains united against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He said additional support to protect Ukraine against chemical, nuclear, and cyber warfare is on the way. Stoltenberg is calling on Russia to create humanitarian corridors and allow civilians to leave besieged cities. Thank you for watching. Ukrainian farmers under fire. They keep their country fed despite the Russian invasion, but getting that food to market is becoming more difficult. We'll ask one of them how they're managing. Also coming up, crisis deepens at China's Evergrande, and the entire Chinese economy could feel the impact. We'll go to Taipei for the latest on the world's most indebted property developer. I'm Chelsea Delaney in Berlin. Welcome to the show. Ukrainian farmers remain hard at work as Russia's war rages on around them. That's crucial as Ukraine is a major supplier of grains, cooking oils, and other food items to the rest of the world. But both producing food and getting it to the rest of the world is becoming increasingly difficult. Farmers fear it will soon be impossible.
Farmer Serhiy Vanyuk helps with the birth of a calf, an animal that will need to be fed. Despite the war, this farm west of Kyiv is still operational. And to ensure the supply of food, farmers are now allowed to continue working on their farms and don't have to fight in the war. But one of the main problems for farmers is that they can't export most of their harvest, as they usually do. That means no money coming in for sowing new crops. That's almost 500 tons of grain behind me. We have a lot of problems. The seaports we need to export our grain are closed. No transactions are taking place. We're not selling any grain, but we still have to invest to keep working, and we have a great lack of liquidity. Exports can only leave the country by truck or rail now. That's much more expensive and will probably be impossible soon. It's going to hit poorer countries in North Africa and the Middle East especially hard. Food prices are already skyrocketing worldwide.
Roman Slaston is the Director General of the Ukrainian Agribusiness Club Association. He joins us from central Ukraine. Thank you so much for being here. So could you just give us a sense of what the situation is like on the ground right now for farmers in Ukraine?
So for farmers, of course, it's a difficult time as well, because especially for those who are on the occupied territories right now, or where the active battles are going on, they are not able to do their job properly, to do the field works, and also to take care of animals. cows. So every animal should get some feed at least twice a day. And milking cows, if you do not milk cow, there is obvious health issues, and animals will sooner or later just die. So that's a very big issue for the livestock farmers in those areas which are occupied. For those who are still in the western part and central part of Ukraine, they are busy with providing food for army, but also for the cities which are in blockade, which need the food. So they give for free some part of the stocks which they have for production, which they have. So milk for free and other stuff. That's one point. Another point that they are busy with repairs of machinery, with military machinery as well. You probably also already seen some videos and photos where Ukrainian farmers with tractors just tow the military machinery to their repair houses. And also many of them they took weapons in their arms and went to defend the country. So that's basically the situation. Most of the farmers, they hope to still seed their fields, and roughly we assess that at least 70% of the area which usually was seed in the spring will be seeded this year.
Okay,
of course, we take
Well, just given that Ukraine is such a major exporter of food to the rest of the world, what are the risks here? We've heard some from the UN, from the EU warning of global famine. Do you think that is a major concern?
Yes, that's a big concern because last year we had a harvest of more than 80 million tons of grains, and out of that 80 million tons we intended to export 60 million tons. So we are a pretty big player on the global trade of grains. We are number 4 for wheat, number 4 for corn, and for barley, number 3 in the world compared to other countries. So that's basically like 15% of the total global trade. Now our seaports are blocked fully. So Russians shoot into merchant vessels. They already found 3 or 4 merchant vessels, foreign merchant vessels in our seaport. And we can export only via railway and trucks through the western border. So, but we are limited with that routes, and we can export like 15 to 20% of what was exported before. As months before the start of the war, we usually exported 5 million tons per month. Now with possibility to export via railway, we have like 600,000 tons, probably 1 million tons, but not more at the moment. And that's a big issue for the global trade, I think, for sure. And of course for our farmers, because they have stocks and can't sell the grain to buy the inputs which they need to have seeding, like seeds, pesticides, and so on.
Roman Seston, unfortunately we're out of time, so we're going to have to leave that there. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ukraine's agricultural woes are also being felt here in Europe. One of the most popular cooking oils, sunflower oil, has all but disappeared from supermarket shelves.
It's the other oil crisis, not soaring Brent crude prices, but no cooking oil on supermarket shelves. People are grabbing sunflower oil because they fear this kind of oil won't reach Spain. It's like the fear felt over toilet paper during the COVID pandemic. And now with oil, this is something similar. But it's not similar. Cooking oil prices are up in Spain, especially for sunflower oil, one of the world's most popular vegetable oils. Ukraine accounts for 40% of Spain's sunflower oil needs, and supply is disrupted. It was 80 cents a litre last year, and now it is €2.60. It's increased more than 300%. Getting an alternative isn't that simple, because different cooking oils have different flavors, and that affects the taste of the food. But the gap will need filling. Spain's National Association of Edible Oil Bottlers says this could be an opportunity for the country's own olive oil industry. We're confident this might pose an opportunity because we are likely to reach new customers in the markets in which we're already present and promote our products. Spain produces more olive oil than it consumes. The industry estimates more than 1.5 million tons of olive oil and its byproduct olive pomace oil will be needed to cover the short countries as they seek replacements for Ukrainian and Russian sunflower oil.
In other news, the U.S. has dropped import tariffs from most British steel as it continues to unwind Trump-era duties. The UK will now have a duty-free import quota of 500,000 tons of the metal. In return, London will drop retaliatory tariffs on U.S. whiskey and motorcycles. The European Commission is reportedly weighing capping gas prices, among other measures to stop rising energy costs. The price of natural gas has increased dramatically since Russia invaded Ukraine, and there are growing fears about the stability of Europe's energy supplies. Embattled Chinese real estate developer Evergrande's financial crisis continues to deepen. The company on Tuesday revealed that lenders have seized $2 billion worth of deposits from one of its subsidiaries. Evergrande also said it won't be able to file its 2021 annual results on time. Trading in the company's shares have been halted since Monday.
Chinese real estate developers are having a fire sale to bring some desperately needed liquidity back to their balance sheets. That's according to Chinese media. And at the forefront is Evergrande, the property developer with the highest mountain of debt worldwide. Evergrande is over $300 billion in the red. And it's not the only Chinese real estate developer sinking in debt. China Fortune Land Development, Vanke, Kaisa, Shimao, Fantasia Holdings, the list is long. Investor worries are growing about China's property market. And economists warn if Evergrande goes down, it could take others with it. And that could cause the Chinese people to lose their faith in real estate as an investment product. Until now, private investors have put up to 3/4 of their savings in apartments and houses. And that's responsible for around 1/3 of China's current GDP. Which is why economists say if the sector falters, it could send China into a recession.
Earlier, I asked our Taipei correspondent, Sun Han-Su, what Evergrande's debt problems mean for China's economy.
China Evergrande is